Hello, everybody. This is the week 2 voiceover on inheritance with object-oriented programming. I can't emphasize enough how very important it is that you complete Project 1 as early as possible in week 2. If anything is wrong with Project 1, your exam will not work correctly, and the exam is this week. The exam program requires you to import Project 1's code, and you will be inheriting the attributes of the object that was created in Project 1 in your exam. So, getting it done as early as possible gives you more time to get something fixed in your project or to get help with it before starting the exam. Because I'm really not supposed to give you help with the exam. That's on you. Okay, back to inheritance. Objects are like mini programs inside of a program. This is all a review of last week. A class is a pattern, also known as a blueprint, also known as a recipe, that is used to create an object. This is also known as a class definition. When an object is brought into existence or being, the constructor for that class is run. And as we learned in week 1, the constructor is the method that's named double underscore init double underscore. You may also remember from week 1 that inside the class definition, self must be passed to every method of the class that we're creating. This week we'll look at inheritance and overriding methods. Inheritance and overrides are abstract concepts. They require higher thought. In other words, they exercise your brain cells. Let's look at the Blackboard Inheritance with Python Classes material. I would like to also make you aware that while this code was taken from an online article, and I do have the link to that article in Blackboard, don't go get the code from that article. It has errors in it, as we discovered the last time I taught this class. I had to correct the code. The code that's in Blackboard is correct. If you go out to the website that is linked in the reference for the article, you'll have bad code. Okay, I'm in Module 1 of the class, and right here is the Inheritance with Python Classes material. There are really only 2 things to look at this week that are new. That's this Inheritance with Python Classes material and this Vehicle Inheritance example material. Okay, let's click into the Inheritance with Python Classes. All right. Here's the link I was telling you about, original link. Just don't go look at it. There's some errors in the code, but it's a lot of good examples here once it's fixed. So I'm sure that you've heard the expression that, oh, you got your father's eyes, or you got your mother's hair. Well, that's an example of a child inheriting from their parents. Classes can do the same thing. So let's look at this source code for a fish class. Right here, this is source code for a fish class. You'll notice that it has the constructor, okay, and it has two attributes or properties that are specific to a given instance of a fish class. Each fish can have a first name and a last name, and those are set when that class is instantiated. Okay, it also has a swim method, okay, that just prints out something that says the fish is swimming. It also has a swim backwards method, and then similarly that does a print that says the fish is swimming backwards. Okay, here we've enhanced the fish class a little bit. Let's go down and play with some inheritance. I'm going to switch over to Tawny so you can see the code. And right here is the code that I have in Tawny that I created here and put in Blackboard. It's called Child Example 1. Okay, so let me switch over to Tawny. Okay, here we are in Tawny. You can see our fish class right here. It has all of its its properties that are specific to a fish. Each instance of a fish can have its own last name, first name, skeleton, and eyelids. It has each fish, every fish that's created can have a swim method and a swim backwards method. But this is a new concept that we're just learning about this week. This is inheritance. Notice that we have a new class that's being defined. It's called the trout class. But look at the parentheses here. It has fish inside the parentheses. When you create a class, if you put something inside those parentheses, that means that this trout class is going to inherit everything from a fish class. So every time we create a trout class, it gets all this stuff. Now, the pass is just there so that we can actually get this to work in Python. If we didn't put pass here, Python would tell us, oh, you're defining a class, but you haven't told me anything to do. So pass just tells Python to ignore this line, but we do have something in the trout class. This will prove to you when we run this program that the trout class inherits everything that a fish has. Okay, this line right here instantiates a trout class, okay, and it creates a object called Terry. Terry is a trout. Next, we can see that we can get to Terry's first name and Terry's last name. The reason we can get to those, if you'll recall from last week, is they're not named with a double underscore at the start, so they're not private methods. Okay? So we can access the first name and the last name. Here we're accessing the Terry skeleton, and again, that's just another public property. Okay, now here we're telling Terry to swim, and we're telling Terry to swim backwards. So let's run this and see what happens. There we go. I just ran it. You can see that we got Terry fish. Okay. We have a bone skeleton. A fish has a bone skeleton. Fish don't have eyelids. Okay. Up here, you can see where we created some default properties for those. If these things are not supplied, Python automatically gives them fish and bone. It automatically makes eyelids false. So you can see that we got a fish class. We got everything with the fish class because we inherited that. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording and make another one because I'm limited to 15 minutes of recording on YouTube and I don't want to lose this work. So we'll pick up at the next recording. We'll talk more about inheritance. We'll also talk about overriding methods.